breaking news, Kevin Stefanski let go by the Cleveland Browns. Jimmy Haslam had some thoughts on it today. And I do believe, if I could pull this up, I have the screenshot of what he said. Now, obviously, we can't play nothing, but I do have the screenshot of what they talked about. And I'll read that off for you guys here. Let me pull this up a little bit. We got to take some things down. All right, here we go. This is a statement from D and Jimmy Haslam. We have tremendous gratitude for Kevin's leadership of the Cleveland Browns over the last 6 seasons. He's a good football coach and even better person. We appreciate all his hard work and dedication to our organization, but our results over the last 2 seasons have not been satisfactory. We believe a change at the head coaching position is necessary. We wish Kevin, Michelle, and Stefanski family all the best in the future. Andrew will continue to lead our football operations. The entirety of our focus is on building a team that brings our fans the success they long deserve, and we will continue to work relentlessly towards the goal and invest whatever resources necessarily to build a winning football program. Andrew will immediately begin our thorough process to find out an outstanding new head coach and leader of our football team. We have an exciting young core to build upon, and Andrew and his team are intent on adding talent to the core and building out our roster that can achieve sustainable success. That was from the official statement from D and Jimmy Haslam that was on the Browns network earlier today. They mentioned the young core, and we had talked about it, and a lot of people didn't really take heed to it. There was pushback, but we talked about how much the Haslams specifically talked about the young core and how they showed up and showed out this year. And that was one of the main contributors of why Andrew Berry was still in his role.
Yeah, I think Jimmy gave a pretty extensive answer as to why he made the choice to move on with Andrew Berry in his same role. And I think the primary reason was, he had a phenomenal draft class, right? And Jimmy actually alluded to, we got 4 guys out this class that he believed he can take to the bank as cornerstones of this franchise moving forward. Those guys being Mason Graham, Carson Schlesinger, Harold Fannin Jr., and Quinshon Judkins. And so you take that, right? And then you couple that with the fact Andre Schmidt, another rookie, that he signed. Rough first game of the year, but the Browns look like they might have a kicker. You look at Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond probably is not your wide receiver 2 or 3, but he's a solid wide receiver 4 with the right offensive mind and in the right system. The boy got some wheels, and we seen what he can do there. So you add those 2 guys on to what he did as far as the draft class, right? You look at the trade that he made with the Jacksonville Jaguars to acquire another number 1 pick. They get you 2 number 1s in the 2026 draft. Then you go back to Jacksonville and you make the trade for Tyson Campbell, who was a flat-out dog once he figured out, what Jim Schwartz's system was. You look at the offseason moves of signing Malik Collins and even a decision to re-sign a guy like Devin Bush. It just seemed like Andrew Berry more often than not checked boxes. Now, did he spend a lot of resources when it came to the wide receiver position? He made the choice to spend his resources on the defensive side of the ball, and he said it today. If not all, the majority of the resources will be spent on the offensive side of the ball this year. So I'm not making it seem like that he had an absolute, 10 for 10 offseason, but he checked more green boxes than he didn't. And for Jimmy Haslam, that was enough for him to move forward. And it's funny because he was also asked, he being Andrew Berry, is there anybody that's going to, assume the role of Paul DePodesta? And he said no. And I got to thinking about paid in full. Remember when they was I think they was in the skating rink, this was after Ace put Calvin on, and Calvin came back and was like, I see you got this little man out here running my block, kind of remind me of you back in the day, but the truth is I don't need him. I think after a while, that's how they played out with Paul DePodesta's situation. Right. I think all along, Andrew Berry was the one that probably had Jimmy's ear the strongest, and probably told Jimmy on some backdoor channel, like, look, your man cool and all, but I don't really need him to do my job. And you seen the instant results because it do look like from afar, the draft strategy or however they went about things was different. And so, I did think it was going to be some type of restructure of the infrastructure. I kind of thought that like AB would promote himself or get promoted to Paul's role and maybe, promote one of the assistant GMs to GM. But it looks like they're going to stay right where they are, and Andrew Berry will lead the next search for the Cleveland Browns head coach.
You know what I think, and I'm going to just keep it a buck with you. I just said this a couple of seconds ago while I was on a podcast. I said, I think a lot of people might have gotten it misconstrued, just using the paid in full notion, right? What I'm saying? Calvin went away and it was the man, right? And he came back and Ace is like, yo, I got an infrastructure. I got my own situation and it's different now because I'm moving it, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's sometimes hard to go from being the dude that had the plug to now you buying work. Like, you know what I'm saying? You getting packs now. Like, you know what I'm saying? You the one got to go to the plug. And I think Andrew Berry moved like this because I used to ask people to see how they would react to it. I said, do you think Andrew Berry has the cachet that he can say, out Kevin Stefanski, you're fired? And a lot of people said, well, I think kind of like they kind of lockstep. And I think a lot of people like actually believed at one point in time that Kevin Stefanski was ahead of where Andrew Berry was. And he was a guy that if it came down to it, Andrew Berry wasn't getting fired. He was reporting directly to Jimmy Haslam. And I think the dynamic changed when DePodesta left because people found out, oh, Andrew Berry is in charge. And when he made those statements and he said things today, Earl, I think he put it in a perspective where he's like, don't get it twisted. I'm still the general manager. And most organizations, coaches, they report to the general manager. And I think he made it clear today, and the Haslam's made it clear that he's the dude that is running the thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think that for a long time, in my opinion, I do think Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski was in lockstep. I think that they were in unison, and I think they were on the same page for the better part of that 6-year tenure that they were together. But something happened last year between the combine and the NFL draft with that front office that kind of like changed the tide. I don't know how true it is, but I go back to the first thing that made me realize that they were no longer on the same page. And this is after years of just listening to Kevin Stefanski and how he goes about press conferences.
Mm-hmm.
It was the day or so after we traded Joe Flacco. He was asked something about overall the offense, and he volunteered the information without being asked about Joe Flacco. He said that I was shocked and surprised, something along those lines, that he was traded. And if you know Kevin is not really volunteering no information that nobody asked him for. So pinpoint that, there very well could have been a situation to where Andrew Berry got the okay from Jimmy Haslam to trade Joe Flacco and didn't feel the need to even check in with Kevin Stefanski because the decision had already been made. And to me, that was just the first thing in a long list of things that started to maybe look at this situation like, okay, they no longer are tied to the hip. And one way or another, they are starting to kind of separate themselves because jobs is on the line. And these men got families and they have, settled in Cleveland, Ohio as their home. Like they got grade school kids who's still in school and all that other good stuff. So, a lot probably went into this situation behind the scenes. And I'm pretty sure over the weeks and months to come, more and more will come out about how we got to this point. It's just funny how not always how things start is how they end. Kevin Stefanski was hired before Andrew Berry. And so I can understand why a lot of people felt like if anybody was going to lose their job, it was going to be Andrew Berry. And, there's been a lot of mixed opinions on how this thing should have played out. You got some people who feel how they feel as far as both should have been gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got people who feel like Andrew Berry did enough to save his job and the right move was made. And you got other people who feel like, Kevin should have stayed. And I guess like if the shoe was on the other foot, would those people be arguing that Andrew Berry should have stayed too? We'll never know.